This is Graphite Radio.
What's going on, good people? This is your boy AD, your conducting instructor, here to take you through a new episode of Graphite Pro. A couple of topics we're going to jump in today. We're going to talk a couple of things around DeepSeek versus AI. We're going to talk about CVS testing phones that can unlock products at the store. We're also going to talk about the world of art and how the Metropolitan Museum is using Web3, ooh, that old word, to kind of bring back like blockchain and NFTs and this idea of like digital art that can be somewhat gamified. So let's jump right in. So let's talk about DeepSeek versus AI. As you know, DeepSeek, owned by a Chinese hedge fund, High Flyer, recently dropped the fireball on the innovation when it comes to large language models around AI. Now, outside of these massive shorts that happens to like be dealing with the stock market and even with like AI from the American perspective, these guys have really figured out a way to take the technology and make it, innovative, right? If you think about what we've been doing here in America when it comes to like AI, large language models, everything from ChatGPT to Gemini to, I guess, the new thing, even like some of these other large language models, these guys really figure out a way to, more or less take the technology and innovate and actually disrupt what's going on with AI. Now, you know that AI for the last, more so generative AI for like the last, I would say 2 years, give or take, have now been using a lot of resources. Where it's been like developers, definitely the chips from NVIDIA, and more so the biggest resource it is, energy and money, right? This little small company out of China, they basically figure out how to make their large language model work equally as better, if not better, using not even a third of the cost, like a fraction of the cost. I think ChatGPT use about spend about $5 billion a year, give or take, to just run their models and more. And let's keep it real. Those models are nice. They're very good. They can render imagery. They can render like text. They can have conversational use cases when it comes to AI. These things can study documents. Like, it's really good. But these guys figure out a way to do more or less the same thing at the fraction of the cost, the time actually spent to actually generate that. And even their biggest approach to is now making their thing open source, whereas most of the AI that we come to like, love, and know has been mostly closed source. So it's something to kind of check out. I think we haven't seen the last of it. Supposedly, I don't know, but they're saying that they really haven't validated these guys, I guess, information or the papers or the research papers to actually, I guess, give credence to how they approach making this large language model. But either case, it has disrupted like the AI technology and sector here in America, like in ways I guess none of us seen coming. Especially when it comes to like the tech stocks around energy, definitely around like the chips with NVIDIA. Maybe these guys are using the NVIDIA chips, who knows? But just keep your eye out for this company called DeepSeek. I think it's cool because now we have competition. Competition is great. It's good for innovation. And now I do feel like that this DeepSeek approach is going to, it's going to allow AI to be a little bit more democratic. It'll be in the hands of more people. This is something I've always been a big advocate for when it comes to like technology, that open source is just, it's a better approach. Now, I know Meta is actually doing open source with their AI, with the, I guess their large language model, but it seems that these guys came in threw a monkey wrench into all of this, and now it's just causing a bunch of disruption. So let's check it out, see what happened, and definitely is worthy of a look. Now let's dive right into the lane of mobile technology and retail. CVS, one of the nation's largest drugstores, they're testing this really cool effort of allowing, like, right now, just iPhone users. I'm sure this is gonna, expand to like Android users, but they're allowing users to unlock the product to their cabinets to retrieve items from the shelves. Now, if you know anything about the CVS, especially here in New York, I'm gonna say probably in other places too, that they've been doing some kind of weird since like 2020. They basically been locking up all the damn product. Like, that's the weirdest thing. You go into CVS, you see all the products from like shampoo to deodorant to medicines, obviously, and even like, I don't know, just toiletries behind a locked cabinet. And you have to like ring the bell. They got to come over. They got to unlock it. Maybe something you don't want a lot of people to know is that you're getting, but nonetheless, you got to get somebody to come and get this item for you, which is probably going to add more your time spent inside the drugstore. Now, I think the CEO is actually saying that this is actually reducing a lot of people buying, products. Now, well, that's kind of like a no doubt. So what they've been testing now is allowing certain people to more or less unlock what you want, probably using QR codes or NFC or, kind of like, technology to more or less just get the items you want. Now, the problem I see with this is that they already know what you're doing and what you're spending when it comes to the items in the store. You're probably using the loyalty points to, obviously transact as you cash out. But now they're going to know what you're getting before you even buy it. So it feels a little odd that maybe this goes in a little bit into the realm of privacy issues, but nonetheless, this is their way of, just trying to reduce friction. I guess the biggest way to reduce friction in a retail store is to, not lock up everything. I think we'll just see how this kind of plays out. I know that Amazon is, I guess they the new retail if you want to look at it. So I don't know, maybe these guys are gonna, try to solve this issue to compete with Amazon, because I personally feel like if I have to constantly go into the store and use a phone to unlock a locker to get a product, hey, I might as well just order it online. So we'll see what happens with these guys. But hey, good luck to you, CVS. So we're going to get into the last thing when it comes to the news. The Metropolitan Museum of Art, they're now using Web3. I mean, that's like, I guess, an old term, right? Even though it was kind of invented, I guess, a couple of years ago, but nonetheless, they're using Web3 in this blockchain. Yeah, another, I guess, old term. It's amazing how things just doesn't age well in this digital world. To more or less get people to, interact with art, definitely historic art, in the form of like a game. Now, what they're doing is they're using like this thing called art links, which they're kind of calling as the first blockchain-based web game. Like, okay, that is so not true, but whatever. These players allow, to explore connections between like 140 works from the museum and collections that earn them like NFTs, badges, and rewards. It's basically gamifying the whole experience. Now, this been developed in like partnership with this lab called TRR Labs. This game more or less offer like these weekly challenges that highlights art movements, material, almost like symbols, while introducing players to the blockchain and artistic like potential. The more you interact with this game, the more you can gamify it. But it seems that they're using blockchain technology to authenticate true art. Now, I get it. Blockchain it sounds cool. It definitely works well with crypto. So, NFTs are still a thing, right? It's non-fungible token. So technically crypto, blockchain, or any kind of like Bitcoin is technically an NFT. So I think they're using this to more or less trying to engage people to look at the Metropolitan Museum as like innovation hub, right? These guys been around for a while, and it seemed to be more open to using technology to engage an audience. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to get people into the Metropolitan Museum to view art. But this is a great way potentially to engage people prior to visiting New York, or more so engage the brand, even, I guess, before you even decide to take a trip and go to the Metropolitan. So we'll check this out and see where it goes. Maybe there's a good use case now for, I guess, the blockchain, again, when it comes to brands and, maybe people's personal possessions. So we'll see how this plays out. All right, so let's get into the graphite tool of the day. I want to talk to you guys about design and content systems, and specifically when it comes to like AI and management. So I started my career as a designer working for a lot of different places. One was the Yellow Pages, right? I was what they call a directory artist or a directory designer back then, and we would use these things called UDACs. I think it stands for like Universal Design Ad Content, right? Like it was just basically the sizes that you saw in the Yellow Pages. You had the TQPs, you had the squares, you had the half pages and the whole pages, right? Now, that same principle started to be applied on the web. So then I kind of moved from working at the Yellow Pages as an intern to, actually doing things for the internet. So as I was getting more into like doing things for the internet, I started noticing those same sizes kind of applied online. So where there's going to be the drop down, I think the banner, what they call it, the billboard at the top. Then it had the skyscraper, which was the side banner. Then you had the square banner. Then you had like a bunch of different banner ads, right? I went from doing things from the Yellow Pages to now doing things more so for online websites and commerce sites that people can see banner ads, right? Definitely working at an ad agency and even some of the .coms. Now, all of that said, each one of those different ways of producing an ad, right, whether it's a print ad or a digital ad, it required this thing called a DAM, which is a digital assets manager. And a lot of us would use this DAM to manage assets, whether it's going to be scanned photography back in the days, or at some point we got into stock photography or photography that we would actually shoot with a great photographer, whether they're doing stills or somebody doing some motion video or people producing the actual commercials, even to the audio and VO or whatever. But this DAM would like literally manage everything for the brand. Definitely a lot of things around the brand assets, logos, fonts, and literally everything, right? Just imagine like your own closet of just digital assets to produce creative things, where there's gonna be posters, ads, well, anything visual, right? Well, a lot of those DAMs have more or less been digitized over the last, 30, 40 years or so. But within the last, I would say 10 to 15 years, a lot of these DAMs have more or less been automated. Because if you think about it, some people would say that a DAM is a place where your creator would go to die, right? So if you think about a DAM of today, it has to do a couple of different things. It has to be something that can manage itself, right? Maybe AI can kind of do those things. It has to be something that look at these big creative teams across the globe. They're no longer concentrated in like one area, right? You got teams that are working in multiple time zones, multiple countries, multiple locations. So being able to manage these things is quite important too. Also, DAMs now have to be more than just, something that's going to manage, digital assets, but it has to manage content, and which is obviously going to be like a CMS or a content management system. It also got to manage a design system, and a lot of design systems are being used for like digital products, where it's going to be, a website or a mobile app or like a kiosk or whatever, anything digital, right? Whether it's going to be a desktop app or some kind of enterprise app that can be used on a tablet, right? So across all those different touch points, you got to think about like a DAM or some type of asset management system that's going to have to manage CMSs, design systems, or even just the assets themselves, right? Take it as an example. Apple has this thing called the Human Interface Guidelines. They have their way of approaching all of their different digital products, whether it's the iPhone, laptop, the iPad, or even things you see in CarPlay. All those digital channels more or less use a lot of the same components that users are going to use. So when you go from one product to the next, you just kind of instantly know how to use it just because of the components are kind of familiar. So now we're in this new world that a digital asset manager is going to have to do everything about that. Now, how do you get over this hump of really understanding how to apply new technologies to like digital asset managers? So I got a couple of different points that's going to help us get through that. Point number one, I think we have to get over the fear of technology, especially when it comes to managing our work, right? I know a lot of people don't like this AI word, but let's keep it real, right? AI is nothing new. It's been around since, probably since World War II. We use AI, a lower grade of it. Nothing new about AI in general. I mean, even your map that you use to navigate everything uses some type of like machine learning AI. But I think the biggest thing is we kind of have to get over this fear of technology, especially when it comes to like applying it to our work. It's here. I think the best thing we could do is figure out how to use it, right? Figure out how to be more productive. If nothing else, just show your manager that you're willing to learn, right? So I think that's point number one. Point number two, these digital asset managers, they need to kind of evolve to create a workflow. I think in today's world, this digital asset management like workflow, I think a lot of it's going to have to be evolved to the point where we're going to be more collaborative about all these different assets. Is there a way to look at what's currently not being used in the DAM? Can we sunset it? Can we archive it a little bit, better and just, in a manner that doesn't really kill it off, but it can be searchable and found maybe later if you need it? Is there a way that we can show each other which components or assets are being used the most? Can we use AI to even iterate on some of the assets in the DAM, right? Like if you're now thinking about like some type of retail SKU, or whether it's going to be a product or some type of, image of a product, could we use a smart DAM to look at that product and give you 3 different versions of it that can be used for like a website, for like some kind of social channel, or even some kind of like on-home advertising promotional thing? So I think that's how we kind of have to look at like point number 2 by evolving how the digital asset manager works when it comes to workflows. Point number 3, is there an intersection with big tech, creativity, and marketing? All these brands, all these different companies, they're more or less going to have a marketing department, because at the end of the day, you got to have somebody that can go out and capture people's attention, especially in an attention economy, to talk about the product or services that you may offer. Is there a better way that we can interact with marketing using tech? I know certain giants like AWS, they're using software as a service when it comes to collaboration with companies, and even using this obviously with their ad agency. They really shape this whole consumer experience with the strategy team, with the design team, with the creative team, and even with their account team, right? So is there like a better way that we can even just have big tech more or less optimize the overall creative process? Now, I think the next point I want to kind of talk about is there a better way to bridge the gap between creativity and technology? I know I used to run these kind of like creative morning sessions at some of my old gigs that we would more or less have a lot of people from the studio to really talk about the different capabilities. Some people would talk about like data visualization and design. Some people would talk about like blockchain and how it applies to, like retail and even like a liquor brand. Other people talked about more or less design thinking and how it could be used to, come up with the best strategies to guide the creativity. So is there a better way to kind of bridge the gap in creativity and technology? I always think it is. So, it's something to kind of consider with that as well. Now, that's a weird thing when it comes to conspiracy theories. I usually try not to get into those type of open discussions because it's just an endless loop of just everything. You're just not going to get anywhere. But I do think debunking a lot of conspiracies in general when it comes to like technology, especially with like internal groups, is always a better approach. Having informative conversations that can be backed by either data or maybe some things from news articles or just reliable sources, it's probably a better way to go. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be a little edgy about AI and the machines are coming to kill us, or it's this weird thing around like, I guess, the Terminator approach. Nonetheless, I do think debunking any kind of conspiracy theory always helps, right? I've been more or less in this technology design space and creative space definitely since like the late 90s with the advent of like us designing web pages. And I must say the biggest conspiracy around any of these things is that people think it's going to be a fad or people think it's just going to take a job. Now, what I've noticed, like always, the people who learn how to use the latest technology will always be the people who will maintain a job, be like a subject matter expert. So yeah, I do think debunking conspiracy theories is probably a better way to go, right? Have a conversation, just talk. I think the last point I want to have here is talking about the future of software as a service in the creative industry. I really want to talk about creativity can be turned into a service because it technically is, but it's also different types of services that can more or less be, I wouldn't say automated, but it can be more or less automated in the sense that, things can be repeatable. You don't have to start all over again every time you want to do something net new. Now, think about that. There are a lot of people out here that these different tools that we're using, whether it's Adobe, Figma, or Mira, or Canva, or whatever, they're all trying to figure out the best way to, optimize the creative process. So I think the biggest thing we can do is look at these tools. Is there a way that we can just see them purely as that? And the biggest thing that allows us to do is to think about the problem more than anything. 'Cause I would always say when it comes to design and creativity, the more you can think about something and then let the execution be 10% in the process, I think the better, right? You spend a lot of time coming up with these beautiful comps or this really cool, campaign or this big out-of-home thing that just looks cool. But if it doesn't really resonate with your end user or your audience, then that's really a lot of wasted time. So if we can use these creative tools that are like software as a service, then I think we can spend more time actually thinking about the product, right? Putting more thought into it, like actually collaborating and being more human when it comes to like solving design problems and creative problems. So software as a service when it comes to creative industry. Now I'll leave you with this last, I wouldn't say a point, but it's more of an observation. Just know that there are a lot of different, there are a lot of different people having these behind the door, meetings. And rightfully so. These meetings should be, more or less thought about behind closed doors first before they're made public. But nonetheless, there are decisions being made. And I think the best thing one could do is to always just, stay proactive. Learn about the latest technology. Learn about the latest trends. Learn about the latest trends when it comes to culture and ideas. Be more on a proactive when it comes to your career or your thoughts, or just being just a well-rounded creative and just a design professional. So the more that you can arm yourself with knowledge, maybe take a class on some different things, get some certifications, the better, right? Nobody wants to just be replaced by a human or AI or a human who knows this technology. I think the more that you can arm yourself by just being proactive with your learnings and just overall connecting with the right people and even finding the right mentorship, the better, right? So these closed door meetings at some point will be made public. And a lot of these meetings are made by people who look just like me and you. They could be your friends, they could be your boss, it could be your neighbor, but nonetheless, just stay proactive. And the old saying, you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So that's the Pro Tools tips for today. All right, good peoples, I'm about to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Graphite Pro Radio. Let me know your thoughts. We're constantly improving the product and just try to iterate the best we can. And just hoping you guys are enjoying everything about the podcast and the show. Feel free to, like, subscribe, and share this pod with everybody you know and your crew, and just getting the word out there. I want this to just be a really beautiful thing for the community. Also, me and a couple of my guys from the Ad Bros podcast decided we was going to bring the podcast back. So cool. You'll be seeing something soon. We're going to be rolling out new episodes. Recently got back together to do some recording. We're going to make this thing a little bit more fresh and bring back some of these points of views when it comes to insights and culture. So be on the lookout for the Ad Bros podcast, now streaming on the Caffeine Network. And as I always say, stay cool, stay creative, be human. Peace.
You've been tuned into Graphite Radio, where creativity meets culture. Part of the Caffeine Audio Network and proudly distributed by Pepper Labs. Thanks for joining us on this journey of ideas, art, and innovation. Be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more stories that shape the world we create. Until next time, keep sketching your vision into reality.